Sup y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and now that Blizzcon's over, I wanted to take the time and to talk to you guys about everything that I didn't really get a chance to in the first video, either because it would make the video too long, it was already pretty long, so I wanted to kind of leave that for another time, or just because the information hadn't been released until the second day of the event. Now also, I wanted to give you guys, I guess, my impressions of the event as a whole, and how in a lot of ways BlizzCon and what they've been saying about Legion at BlizzCon has kind of changed not only my perception, but a lot of other people's perception, and made people a lot less apprehensive in terms of, will Legion be able to deliver the content promises that they made whenever the expansion came out. Now, last thing I want to talk about is that, as many of you guys might or might not know, Nostalarius, the big private WoW server that got shut down last year, made a really big announcement regarding what they're going to be doing going forward, and so since I've been kind of involved with that ever since the beginning of the shutdown, I kind of wanted to give you guys an update with that as well. Now, first thing, obviously, is I do want to talk about some of the new things that were announced at BlizzCon. Now, whenever I saw the Tomb of Sargeras and I looked at the bosses, I looked at the layout of the instance, I just looked at it just gave me the general feel of Black Temple. And I said that in my last video, and apparently that was what they were going for, because a lot of the gear from Tomb of Sargeras, the tier sets, I'm assuming, are going to be inspired. I guess probably that's the best way to use it, the best word to use. The gear is going to be inspired by tier 6 gear, which is the gear that dropped from the Battle for Mount Hyjal and also the Black Temple raid back in Burning Crusade. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That was a really good, obviously a really great tier back then, and also the gear did look really, really cool. Now, a lot of people at the Q&A, there was not really a whole lot of new information, and like 90% of the information I'm cutting out of this video, just because it's like, are like gnomes going to be able to be druids? Like, I don't really think that, like, maybe a few people care, but I don't really think it's important enough to go into a video. But I guess now that we're talking about it, they're not going to be. So anyway, another thing that obviously a lot of people have been asking about is factions. Factions are very core and integral to the entire Warcraft franchise. There's always been the Horde, there's always been the Alliance, there's always been a little bit of overlap, but for the most part, it's always been red versus blue. So a lot of people, because they're playing on Horde and their friends play on Alliance, they're looking for a different way that they can play with their friends cross-faction. And at this point, Blizzard decided that basically that factions are not going away, that they're too integral of a part of the game, and they don't plan on dissolving the factions at any point right now. Obviously, we have faction changes and everything like that, and that actually reminds me of something that I didn't have thought up that I was going to talk about, is that they actually also mentioned that, as many of you guys know, you can buy a WoW token right now on the auction house for gold, and they're thinking, and I'm very glad about this, they're thinking of expanding that system to include character services, like maybe character transfers, or like name changes, or maybe the store pets or the store mounts or something like that. No, I'm not really a big fan of the store mounts or anything, but I do think that this is a very good way of going about it, and also it seems like the logical next step, and ultimately it'll probably make more money for Blizzard, and there's going to be nobody really in this equation that loses. So I think this is going to be a really, really good step, and I've been looking forward to them doing this for a while. Now, along with them not talking about, merging the factions, there are a lot of people who are playing on Dead or smaller realms that don't really have the chance to really get that full MMO experience. And this has been a concern for me for probably since the beginning of Mists of Pandaria. They just made more and more and more servers, and at a certain point, whenever the player base kind of leveled out, those servers, some of those servers died off, and so they have very, very small populations, and a lot of people are left basically playing in a ghost town. So Blizzard is going to be adding more connected realms, and I just really hope that's the first step towards actually officially merging some of these servers. While there are obviously going to be some, hang-ups and some complications like names, which player is going to get priority over which name on the server. Obviously, I do think it's very important for Blizzard to focus on, I think, the greater good, and so I do hope that they do merge servers sooner than later. Now, also, one thing that kind of was very surprising to me, many people have had a lot of complaints about the Legendary system, myself included. I recently got I now have 3 Legendaries. I still don't like the system, but at least it's kind of working for me. So, I'm not very happy about it, but a lot of people have kind of looked for different ways and asked for different ways to kind of offset that RNG or be able to get Legendaries from some sort of a more deterministic or guaranteed system. They said that they might have craftable legendaries at some point. I did not expect to hear that. I really did not expect to hear that. Of all the things I did not expect to hear, that was probably at the very highest list. But really, whenever I think about it, Sulfuras was basically a crafted legendary. You received the eye, and then you made the mace, and you combine the eye with the mace. But ultimately, Sulfuras is in a lot of ways a crafted legendary, and so there is, even at the very oldest part of the game, a precedent for this happening. So I'm very, very interested to see what they're going to do. I really like the idea of having, gear that is like stronger than epic gear, the gear that's like more than. Like in Diablo, they have legendary items, and in WoW, legendary items are kind of like the legendary items in Diablo. I do apologize. Apparently, there's a garbage truck. I had no idea that was going to happen. Actually, I do. It's Monday, and it happens every Monday. But anyway, guys, I do think that would be really, really cool if they made legendaries craftable, or at least some type of legendary craftable. I don't really know what the end goal for that would be, but I definitely think it would be interesting and would give people another way to kind of move and expand their character beyond just stats or anything like that. The legendary fixes are very, very cool and very fun. That was probably one of the most interesting things about playing Diablo. So whenever they introduced the legendary system, I thought they would emulate the Diablo system a little bit more in terms of how prolific the legendaries are in Diablo compared to WoW, but they haven't, so maybe the crafting legendaries might be a possibility to see that happen. Now also Obliterum, they're not really very happy with the way that Obliterum feels, like creating Obliterum, and I can't really say that I blame them, but one thing that is kind of cool is that they're going to be increasing the Obliterum cap, and I think 7.1.5 or 7.2, I forget which one, to 865. So that item level is equivalent to Heroic Emerald Nightmare, and I believe it is 10 item levels lower than I believe normal. I think normal Nighthold is 875. I'm not really sure. So it's still going to be kind of a stepping stone. It's not like crafted gear is ever going to be any sort of a real end game. It's just something that I would really like to see, at least for a couple of different pieces, in the same way that we had in Burning Crusade. I would like to see that a lot, but we don't really know if that's going to happen or not. But 865 is a pretty good place, and so it's going to be like, I think it's like 10 of 10 Obliterum, so that's pretty cool. Now, they also talked about PvP. Now, PvP is one of those things where I've had a lot of complaints. I've never really made a video about PvP in Legion yet, and despite myself, I'm already Prestige 3. I've done tons of Battlegrounds. I've done a pretty good amount, not really pretty good amount of Arena. I've done a few games of Arena, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I didn't really know how the hybrid system was going to work. I thought that they were trying to achieve a gray area that would make both parties unhappy. There are a lot of people who like to go into random Battlegrounds with Mythic Raid gear and just crush nubs, like baby seal clubbing. And then there are other people who want a completely balanced experience where everybody has the exact same stat template, like a MOBA or something like that. And Blizzard tried to go into the middle and say stats matter, but they don't matter all that much. And I didn't really know how that was going to turn out. And I think on a competitive level, there's still a lot of problems with that. But for players, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But I do wish that there was more of a power creep so you can actually feel your character getting more powerful in PvP. Right now, I don't really feel that same increase in power whenever I get better gear or I fight somebody else that's lower geared than me in PvP. I do think that rated PvP should be completely baseline with everybody having the same stats, though, or at least the same abilities to choose the stats that they want to go with. Now, they also use the honor system, and I think the honor system is going pretty well. I've enjoyed it a lot. I like being able to kind of level up. I always liked being able to just collect honor points back in Vanilla and Burning Crusade just to get different, like, random PvP pieces. I thought that was a great idea. So I thought that, them doing the honor system and being able to get these little rewards, artifact power, and then you get a mount at the end, and a number of other things, I think those things are awesome. So the honor system was kind of used to entice players that don't normally PvP to actually go in and start doing PvP, which I think, for at least a lot of my friends, has worked pretty well. Now, 7.2 is going to be the patch that comes out with Tomb of Sargeras, and it will also bring in the invasion points. As I said, the Blizzard, I think that they definitely should, and they will actually now, use the system and all the tech and basically everything that they've developed for doing the pre-expansion Legion events with, like, the Burning Crusade coming in, or Burning Crusade, I said that so many times, the Burning Legion coming in like Dunmorrow and like in Westfall and stuff, and like the invasions. I would really like to see them use that throughout the expansion and maybe in the future just for random little bonus events, kind of like Boat Day or something. So I'm really glad that they're going to be doing that in 7.2. 7.2 in terms of in different zones in the Broken Isles. That's going to be really cool. I like that a lot. They also said you're going to be able to summon different bosses, and so I think this is going to be very similar to what we saw whenever the patch 6.1 came out, whenever you were able to summon bosses inside the garrison. It wasn't really that important, right? It didn't really matter, and so I think that just with their better, I think they have, in general, a better design philosophy in Legion. I mean, obviously there's things I disagree with that they did better in WoD, like like gear RNG, but for the most part I think that they've done a pretty good job in terms of like where they're trying to take the game. And so I think that the bosses that they'll be doing in Legion in 7.2 are going to be a whole lot better. So generally I think that a lot of people thought that they didn't really know, like a lot of people thought that they were going to talk about legacy servers at BlizzCon or something else like that, and I didn't really know. I thought that they would. They ended up not talking about it, and that's actually going to lead me into the second point with Nostalarius. But on top of that, I think that people didn't really, after Mists of Pandaria had that huge content drought at the end with Siege of Orgrimmar, and then WoD had that huge content drought. WoD was the huge content drought, and so people didn't really feel like they could trust Blizzard whenever they said, oh yeah, there's going to be tons of patch content all throughout the expansion, because that's what they say every time. But I think that this BlizzCon, them showing us all of this new content that they're planning on bringing to the game, and things that are just as little as Boat Day, I'm assuming that's going to be little, and just as big as the Tomb of Sargeras. I think that all of those things coming together have really made people feel a lot more I guess confident in Legion, and confident that they'll be able to deliver on their promises. Now, will we have a huge year-long drought at the end of the Legion expansion? I don't really know. Nobody knows. But from the direction and from what they've been doing so far, I would not necessarily expect it as much as I would in WoD or Mists of Pandaria. Now, Nostalarius, this is the last thing I want to talk about. Nostalarius is, as a lot of you guys know, the private WoW server, vanilla WoW server that got shut down last year. At that point, they got shut down. There was a huge petition. That petition got Blizzard to actually fly the Nostalarius developers over to the Blizzard headquarters and actually have a discussion with them and discuss the potential, I guess, the legitimacy of actual, official legacy Blizzard servers. This is something that I've always really wanted, and, I know that there are a lot of people who don't want this. That's fine, but, I don't want them to stop developing normal WoW either. But anyway, Nostalarius actually then left, and then... No, sorry, I got a hair in my mouth or something. And basically what happened is that they didn't, Blizzard never really sent an email back to Nostalarius, and never really followed up with Nostalarius after the initial meeting that they had at the BlizzCon headquarters in regards to, are legacy servers happening or not. People have been waiting for a definitive yes or no. We haven't really gotten one, and Nostalarius, this was a couple of weeks ago, put out an announcement, and they said if Blizzard does not, basically if Blizzard doesn't announce legacy servers at BlizzCon, we're going to do something. And most people took this to mean that Nostalarius was going to reopen, and basically what they announced yesterday is that they're going to be giving the source code, the Nostalarius source code, over to another private server called Elysium, and I think that server, I think it's actually called Valkyrie WoW, and Elysium is one of their servers. I'm not really sure how this all works. I don't really play on these servers. My goal is for them to make official Blizzard legacy servers. I'm not really very engaged or involved in terms of what private server is doing what. I want the official legacy servers. So they're giving the source code over to a Valkyrie WoW or Elysium, and also they're going to be making that source code public in probably in a date in the future that's probably not going to be really that far off. Now, a lot of people were kind of frustrated about this. They were expecting Nostalarius to just reopen. Obviously, Nostalarius has the brand name, I guess, of being very trustworthy. So whenever people see that, oh, it's another company, or not a company, but another organization doing it, it obviously makes them very skeptical. The Elysium people, or Valkyrie WoW, they said that they're not going to make any money through this or anything like that. I don't really know how I feel about them releasing the source code. I know that basically a lot of people want them to. I don't know anything about code. Honestly, I really don't. I took programming once, right? I really don't know, and so I don't really know what the ramifications of this are. But I think that it would be the legacy server movement in order to get Blizzard Blizzard to do the official Legacy servers would be stronger the more consolidated it is. The reason that Nostalarius was able to meet with Blizzard is because everybody united under that one banner. And dispersing the source code amongst all of the different people and giving anybody that ability to use it could potentially make it to where it basically would disperse the population for Legacy servers, and in a lot of ways, like, numbers is strength. I think that if there was like one Legacy server that had 100,000 people in it, that would be more powerful in terms of its bargaining power than 10 Legacy servers with 10,000 people in it. But that's just my opinion. I'm always curious to hear what you guys have to say. I know there are counterpoints to that, but ultimately, as I said, my goal is official Legacy servers, and so that's what I really want to see. But I do want to say, what they're announcing at BlizzCon, what they announced at BlizzCon is fucking awesome. I cannot wait to play it. I'm very, very excited to do the Tomb of Sargeras. I really want to fight the fallen avatar of Sargeras. That's going to be awesome. Going to Argus is going to be awesome. It's really looking like Legion's going to be, it's going to have a lot of stuff to do. Even despite the things that I don't like, I'm not even going to have time to not like those, because it looks like there's going to be plenty of stuff for me to keep myself busy with. So anyway, guys, BlizzCon this year has been really, really great. I think it's been probably one of the best ones that they've done for a lot of reasons, honestly. But I think the main reason is that just because they were able to deliver all of this content, and even though they didn't really give us an expansion release or anything like that, they basically did with the amount of content and the amount of stuff that they're going to be giving us in Legion. So let's just go ahead and hope that they're going to be able to deliver on that, but I guess time will tell. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and like, comment, and subscribe.